What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Forge Dominion podcast. I am your host, Martin J, and I am interviewing someone special, Martin J. And I'm gonna flip this a little bit. So, technically, my lovely wife, who's behind the camera right now, will be interviewing me to give you guys a light on who I am and why I'm doing this for. So, with no further um information, let's begin.
All right, well, let's start with the basics. Where were you born and raised?
Born and raised. Okay, so I was I was born in Hoffman Estate. Never lived there. I was just born there, and my mom makes it a point to always say that. I was raised in Elgin, Illinois. Hoffman Estate is in Illinois, and I was raised in Elgin, Illinois, for the beginning of my childhood. When my parents divorced around, I think 7 or 8, we moved to Carpentersville, and I lived in the basement with my aunt. And well, it was my mother, my brother, and I. So I lived in Illinois for the most part, and I always say Chicago because it's only like 35, 40 minutes away from this downtown Chicago. So it's easier. People don't know what Elgin is. And when my parents divorced, my mom decided to move us to El Paso when I was, I believe, 10. And I grew up in El Paso. I did my middle school years, my high school years there. I went to multiple high schools there in El Paso, Texas, and I bounced back and forth after high school. So, but yeah,
Did you have family in El Paso, or what was the reasoning for moving to El Paso?
yeah. I had my mom and ended up. So my mom is from Juarez, Mexico, and my grandparents live in Segundo Barrio, El Paso, Texas, and we ended up moving there. We ended up moving there in El Paso and just grew up there. My mom tried to make it happen anywhere. I lived in the South Side, far West Side, East Side, and kind of growing up, my middle school years was East Side. Shout out to America's High.
With all that bouncing around, what was your childhood like?
Uh, well, for the first part, I always sectioned it in two. I had um my first part when I had my parents together. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful childhood. I one of the things that I want to mention is one of the most significant memory that I have is just waking up in Elgin in my childhood home in with my dad. When my dad still owns that house, and I would wake up and the sun hits different in Chicago. I don't know if it's because it's more north, but everything looked golden or orange. And like I said, it was beautiful. I remember walking in and we had one of those panoramic windows in the kitchen, and it was just beautiful. I had a great childhood. Of course, it has up and downs when my mom struggled and financially and tried to raise two kids on her own. And we lived in basements for a long time. We would uh, my mom struggled, but we had our moments. And but for the most part, I've always been very social. So I had a lot of friends to get me by, and have a lot of cousins that helped me out. And but it had I would say it was a pretty fun, active childhood.
I mean, the strength of a mother is no joke, so she
Mm.
made sure you guys were good and happy.
A 4x4 mother is what I had. Yeah.
What about your teenage years? Did that bring on any challenges in your life? Any struggles?
Yes, ooh, that was good. Well, teenage years, I not that I rebelled, but I thought I had to be tough, that I had to be strong, and with no guidance of a real man, uh, I redirected myself a direction that I did not want to go. Gangs, violence, drugs, and I not that I'm proud of it, but it made me who I am today. And I luckily I was smart enough to look back and be like, this is not my life. Things that I saw, things that I've done, things that I've said, things that's happened to me, all shape me who I am. But yeah, I've had a lot of challenges. I guess it was my rebellious stage, but for the most part, I felt like even though sometimes I felt like nobody was around me, I've always had somebody there.
I know you say in a lot of your videos on TikTok the from that point in El Paso until where you are now, you've had a lot of different jobs, but what got you into barbering?
Well, going into fine detail and in depth, I feel like God placed me here, and I'm gonna explain to you why. I've all my clients always, when I tell them something about me, they're like, "You live many lives." Well, let me explain. I've done insurance sales. I've done embroideries. I've done card attendant, cashier at Target. I've done restaurants. I've done welding. I've done. Uh, I worked for an immigration law firm for 2 weeks until they found out I lied on my resume. So shout out to Enrique Garcia. I'm sorry, buddy. Uh, I, it's been. I've done many things. Now I'm a barber now. Out of all that, from being a blue collar worker to being in a restaurant to being this, welding and barbering are pretty hand in hand. And because you the stance, the precision, the coordination, then the restaurant made me love people, made me understand people, made me understand how to deal with conflict. And you're in the people business. That's not the food business. It's the people business. And that's what I am as a barber. I service people. So I like to gloat and I'm proud of that. I put the serve and service.
Do you remember your first cut? What was it like?
Well, my very first cut uh was Dylan from Fuddruckers. Shout out to him. And I just technically balded him. I just gave him like a one on top and a little taper that I found on this video from YouTube on how to do a little taper. And I kind of cut him in the dark. And I wasn't scared. I wasn't never nervous. I don't know why. And the second cut, I had my friend, a good mentor at that time, Emilio Eclipse. He owns the Garage Barbershop in Midland. He I paid him $200 per class to teach me how to cut hair, and I think I went to three or four classes, and I had a model, Eric Fuentes, who was a server of mine from Pork and Pig when I was a manager there, and I never felt nervous. Never felt nervous. I think my only time I ever felt nervous was when I my first day at Bless Barbers was my probably my very first time I ever felt nervous. But
Can you tell us why?
um it was a real barbershop, the real deal, highly professionals, high professionals. They were everybody there when it just everybody in there was good barbers, and they still are good barbers. And I had to catch up, and I know I wasn't at their level. But lucky for me, when I was in school, I made it a goal to mess up people's hair on purpose. So when I'm in the real world, I didn't have these issues, and that helped out a lot.
What was your proudest moment thus far being a barber?
The proudest moment, ooh, well, I as of right now, the proudest moment I have is that I no longer do walk-ins. Uh, it's not that I'm appointment only. If I have time, I would gladly do walk-ins. And for barbers who are doing walk-ins, keep grinding. I just built my clientele through my TikTok. It's helped me out tremendously, and I just do my appointments on Booksy. But that would probably be my proudest moment right now, and that I'm surrounded by great, godly, faithful men who actually correct me when I'm wrong, correct me when I need it, help me when I need it. Um, I'm 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 proud to be at that shop.
So that's your proudest moment, which sounds like God has blessed you very much in your career so far. Can you
Absolutely.
tell us what's the hardest part?
The hardest part in here, um, I think, as a barber right now, um, the hardest part was getting people to trust that you're a solid barber. The hardest part right now for me is you do get burnt out cutting hair. There is a thing called barber fatigue, and you just you don't you think of like what's next for you, you don't want to be stuck behind that chair forever. I don't, but I do enjoy and I do love cutting hair. So this is, I don't know. I don't know. That's probably the hardest thing for me to understand. But I just know that I love cutting hair. I enjoy it. I feel like I get paid to talk to homies, to friends, and I get to plant a seed in everyone that don't believe in God, because I do have clients, and I'm doing my own ministry, barber ministry. So, but the hardest part is just you see the vision sometimes when you get burnt out of, I'm gonna do this forever, and it's strenuous. My ribs hurt sometimes. It's crazy to feel to say that, but your ribs hurt, your feet hurt, your my thighs get sore. Your vision gets sore. Your neck or your upper back gets sore. Right here on the side, I guess my ribs. I don't know. That's probably the hardest part.
So you mentioned you're a Christian, you work at Blessed Barbers, you talk about God and your faith a lot. But how has your faith shaped your life and your career?
Oh man. Well, kind of touching base on that. I I got into, and I'm taking it way back. And I'm gonna lead into why I got into barbering. And I think God truly, truly blessed me and placed me here for a reason. And I truly feel that. Because when it came to my conclusion, I was giggling inside and I smiled when I was cutting hair. I remember that day. I was a welder and I've done many, many jobs. And when you weld, you have to stand a certain way. You have to, make sure your eyes are coordinated and your hands are coordinated. And the same thing as barbering. Then he placed me out of nowhere. I was tired and I was done of welding. I did it for 5 years and I was done welding. And God gave me a chance. I just started applying on Indeed like crazy. And some guy from Fuddruckers called me and said, "Hey, come tomorrow for an interview." And I went and I showed up from El Paso to Midland. I drove. And the dude said, "Did you just drive in this morning?" I said, "Yeah, you're hired. You're my new manager." So I started managing a restaurant right after the pandemic. No, even during the pandemic. It was during the pandemic. And I started learning to love people, because I used to say I hated people. I used to say I didn't like people. It was just me. But then I started expanding my love. But as I started loving more people, I realized that I was growing closer to God. So that kind of shaped me in a sense. And now, as a barber, I get to do that. But I managed for 4 years, 5 years, and you know, just that's how God shaped me. My faith shaped me.
So how do you stay motivated when life gets heavy?
Well, that's a hard one, because I mean, we motivation dies any day. Motivation dies all the time. Of course, through your habits and dedication. Just I truly believe that. But there's this. Um, I can't quote scripture off the back of my hand, but in the gospel, it says, Jesus says, "Cast your anxieties onto me." And I wake up every morning. In the days that I feel more, and I try not to show that I have anxiety, but there's moments that I do, or or depressive thoughts or sadness or gloominess, whatever I feel. I try to, and I don't do it for nobody else. Because I don't want to put on a fake persona, but I stay motivated through that. I know that God has me. God has me. Jesus Christ has me. Um, I try to understand my discernment. I don't have it as fully as intact as my lovely wife, but I um, I try to understand and feel what's right, and I ask just God for guidance on moments where I don't feel motivated. Sometimes it's okay to take a rest, you know. Um, so days that I feel burnt out, I truly try not to do anything. Like Mondays are my days off, so I try to be as lazy as possible, like the Bruno Mars song. So,
I know you touched base on it a little bit in your latest video on your TikTok, but do you want to share a little bit more in detail about your testimony and what brought you to Christ? And
Well, it took years to bring me to Christ in a sense, right? But when I solidified my faith, when I knew that God was real, it was around 18, and I had my first breakup, my first heartbreak.
you were 18 or 18 something?
18 something.
It's a joke. I know you weren't born in the 1800s.
Oh.
So you were 18 though.
I was 18. Okay, I'm sorry. I was 18 years old, and I'm 32 now. So I was 18 years old, had my first heartbreak. Me and my mom were not cool because of that girl. And like I said, I take accountability. I wasn't perfect neither, but I did catch her cheating. She openly admitted it. And
Just so everyone knows, it was not me.
no, it was not my wife. It was my ex girlfriend. Um, but I was not cool with my mom, so I didn't have a home to go to. I had a good friend of mine, Andrew, who let me stay at his house, but I felt intrusive, so I left. I had a little Honda and like $70 to my name, probably even less than that. But I left the house. I left her house, and I remember I I, I was my mentality at that time. I never thought I had the mentality of like I'll steal something and then I'll ask for forgiveness later because that's how God works. That's how dumb I used to think. That's how low I used to think, and that's not at all how God works. But and it can get very confused, and it gets relatable to that. It can be, but I used to think I used to. It was weird. I used to have evil thoughts, like I'll beat this motherfucker up, and if he goes into coma, I don't care. I was like, why would I say that? Why would I think that? So I don't know. But just giving you guys some context of why I never thought God was not real. I just didn't trust him. I didn't trust him to give me what I wanted, right? And sometimes it's not that, it's what he wants, it's his will. Now I understand as an adult. But I was in the intersection of Zaragoza and Lee Trevino in El Paso, Texas, in my little Honda, and it was around 11 something o'clock. Now I'm gonna tell you a twist that a lot of people don't know, and I'm gonna say this because I didn't go in detail in my testimony. When I put my hands together, it was around 11 something, and I'm saying it because I saw the time, and I said, God, if you are real, please show me you are here. And I felt something wrap their arms around me, something warm, something, I don't know. I didn't feel scared. And for some reason, being El Paso, it was not busy. At least Trevino and Zaragoza is one of the most busiest streets. It was empty and dead AF. That's all I got to say. Something told me to go back home. And of course, my Holy Spirit, right? I went back home. I remember me and my mom having spoken like almost 8 months. And she opened the door and looked at me. She was angry. She looked at me. She said, she saw me with a little duffel bag. And I guess she saw my eyes because I was crying. When I felt that feeling, I wept. I cried. And if you guys know me, I do not cry. And the funny part is, my mom said, get inside. She said, go, entra. I went inside, put my little duffel bag. God, I didn't have that much clothes. Went to bed, woke up the next day. I don't remember. I don't even remember going to sleep. I don't remember. I just fell asleep, but I just remember I felt so peaceful, so relaxed. I woke up the next day. My mom said, I prayed for you. I was praying for you when you showed up at my door. I said, what time was it? 11 o'clock. And when she told me that, I was like, there is no way. And I remember I hugged her. I cried. I asked for forgiveness because the way I left her house and left her was an ugly way. And I've said ugly things. Um, I was upset. And now looking back, she was looking out for the best of my interest, in my best interest. And yeah, I mean, that's how it kind of came about. But that's what grew my faith, right? I wasn't really into my faith yet until I think the biggest motivation was you. My biggest motivation is seeing how you changed And by the way, I was not the perfect husband. I was never the perfect husband. But I saw my wife, I saw a light in my wife that I never seen before. And I said, you know what? Let's go try that church that you gladly like to brag about. So we tried Stonegate at Midland, Stonegate Fellowship. And that first day I got there, I had nothing but bad things to say. I was like, these people are fake. Uh, these people they're rich. They're not humble. I didn't know any better, so forgive me. But I started going, and I saw this guy, and this guy, I remember this guy Umberto punched me when I first when he didn't even know me. My first day there, he hit me, and I'm like, what? Who is this guy?
Mexican to Mexican, right?
I know, but I'm like, who is this guy? Like, don't be touching me, dude. If you knew who I am, like, you wouldn't be doing, like, you know what I mean? But I was like, all right, whatever. And then I saw this black guy. His name is Matthew. They call him Black Jesus out there. uh, had a smile on his face, big old smile, nice teeth, by the way. And I went the next time and the next time, and I said, okay, that smile is gonna fade away one day. I've been there how many years now? Three,
Two.
2 years, and I have never seen that smile fade away. That man greets me the same every time I go. So God bless Matthew. Um, so I solidified my faith, and I truly, truly surrendered as an adult and as a man about 2 years ago when I said, God, this is nothing without you. I'm nothing without you. I used to think I can do this all by myself, but I was wrong.
So, with all that, what do you want your audience to take away from your story? Which is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Young men or women that have grown from a broken home like me, they're you should not ever think that you're the product of your environment or a product of your own habits or your past. And I love saying this quote, every angel has a past and every sinner has a future. So you may not, we're not called to be perfect, and you might not be on the righteous path right now, but if you want it, you can definitely do it. God is real. Jesus Christ is the way, and you will know once you feel the Holy Spirit in you, and you will definitely feel it.
So, let's talk about why you're doing all this. You have your TikTok, you do your lives, but why are you starting a podcast?
Well, my podcast, one of my biggest inspirations is George Janko. Uh, I love the dude. I love the podcast. I don't even know the dude, but I love what he talks, and I'm a yapper. I love to talk, um, and I love to meet new people. But at the same time, I've always noticed that I like to show off other people, not really myself, but other people. Um, just kind of like shining light. I want to keep it local. I want everybody to know that me moving, and I guess it's just me shining light in Odessa, Texas, but everybody that makes Odessa, Texas, a lot of people like to down this place, but I want to shine light and faith and
Are you just highlighting Odessa, or you can highlight Midland or the whole Permian
oh
Basin?
well,
Or
Odessa and Midland, Texas. I want to shine light on Odessa, Midland, Texas. I want to shine light on their locals that make it what it is. And to me, everybody's a legend. I love everybody. I think everybody is cool, even to the everyday worker, everyday Joe, to the guy who's flipping burgers, to the guy who's working at the restaurant. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And I like, if you're like me, you're a Pepo, you like to, you want to know somebody's story, just to know it. Hey man, that's pretty cool. And I want to shine light every day to make everybody around the world know what Odessa and Midland is, because this is where I am, and this is, I grew my faith here. I'm growing my family here. I grew, like I said, I grew in my faith here, and God created my career here. I have nothing but love for here. So I love this town, and I want to show it off to the world.
and so right now you're trying to drop a new episode every Monday. And what should your listeners expect?
All my listeners should expect my audience. Number one, primarily faith. Hopefully, I can plant a seed on you guys one day, and if maybe if you're already into, you're with Christ already, maybe grow into faith more. with me in my journey. And if you don't, maybe someone that needs Christ in their life, um, a mentality, uh, hustle, and a little bit of comedy and barber content, of course, and just keeping it local for Odessa, Midland, and the 432.
Do you have any long term visions for your podcast or?
Well, that question's pretty difficult. I just want to have fun with it. Uh, I am a talker. I'm a yapper, like I keep saying. Um, I want to grow, of course. Keep my vision is probably just to interview everybody in this town in Odessa, Midland, Texas, and of course, eventually expand out. And I don't know, maybe one day interview Cliff Stewart. I think I'm saying his name right. Cliff, interview Brandon Lake, George Janko, people that I hopefully they can be on my show one day. Um, but that's my vision. I just my goal is just to shine light and inform people and give people light, shine light and positivity. That's it. That's really what I want for my podcast.
Well, Mr. Certified Yapper, thanks for sitting and talking to me.
Well, guys, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate every view. Like, comment, follow the page. I will be dropping a new video every Monday, and this is just the beginning for Forge Dominion podcast. Thanks to my lovely wife. Thank you guys for listening, and God bless.